So I was going over my Boolean logic table, and I noticed that there was a gate called a Naan gate. And I was kind of hungry at the time, and I thought, oh, Naan, that sounds kind of similar to Naan. So I thought I'd make some Naan bread, and here we go. Let's get started. So we're going to need 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1/4 cup of yogurt, 1 package of yeast, 2 1/4 teaspoons, 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of warm water, and 3 tablespoons of oil. And now that we have summoned all of our ingredients into the realm of existence, we can begin the process. So we get out our mixing bowl, and we're going to pour in our water. Then we're going to add our yeast to our water. And I'm using instant yeast, so I can kind of go right at it. But if you have standard yeast or you got questionable yeast, dump it in, stir it up, give it a few minutes to froth up. If it comes to life, good. If not, well, good luck. And now that our yeast is all prepared, we're going to move on to the next step, and we're going to work on the rest of our liquid ingredients. So we're going to add in our oil as well as our yogurt. Now that all of our ingredients are combined into the same bowl, we're going to mix them to improve the combined factor. Heterogeneous is the preferred outcome. This, however, is hard to achieve due to oil and water not mixing together without a proper emulsifier type agent. Now it is time to work on our dry ingredients. So we'll get ourselves another mixing bowl, and then we're going to add in our flour, our sugar, and of course our salt. Now of course we need to mix all this together so it's nice and combined, and try not to shoot it out of the bowl like I just did here, but keep it all inside the bowl. Perfect. Now we can start adding our fluids to our solids. Now you get the choice of either putting a little bit in and mixing it, or doing what I did here, just dumping it all in, then using the spatula to clean up the bowl. So now that it's all inside the bowl, we can move on to our next phase of mixing. So I'm just going to be using the wooden spoon here and doing the circular mixing motion, and it's going to mix it for a little bit till it starts to kind of combine. This is one of those recipes that you don't want to over mix it, and it was getting quite sticky and it wasn't mixing very well in the bowl, so I had to move on to doing it on the countertop, which I usually find works a lot better anyway. But you can't really start on the countertop, so you start in the bowl, then you move to the countertop, and you just kind of, well, we're going to be kneading it now, so we're just going to knead it till it combines, and then we can move on to the next step. Now just keep in mind that if it's like really sticky and sticking to everything, just add a little bit more flour, because that can kind of be a little bit of a problem. Once it all starts to kind of combine, then you're pretty much done. So just knead it for a couple minutes. And now that we're done kneading, we're going to get ourselves another bowl, a clean bowl, and then we're going to put some olive oil in the bowl, then kind of give it a little bit of a mix around, put the dough in the bowl, and then cover with a towel, and then we're going to stick it in the oven with the oven light bulb on, so it's a little bit warm. If you don't have an oven that you're going to be heating it up in, or you're cooking something else, just set it on top of a fridge, somewhere warm, that way it'll rise quicker. Of course, if it's not the dead of winter and it's warm outside, you just sit on your counter and you're okay. Or you can just let it rise for longer. But I'm going to give it about an hour or so in the oven, and I'm going to take it out. And here's what we got now. Got my rolling pin ready, and I'm just going to give the counter here a little bit of a brush off. It's just all that little bit of leftover flour from before, so no big deal. And I'm actually going to put more flour down, some nice fresh flour. And now I'm going to proceed to divide up the dough. I think it'll make 8 or so Naan bread patties, bread loaves, bread pieces. I don't know what your nomenclature is for that. So I'm going to do the half, and then the half and half, and the half and half and half. And that should be enough to get us the proper size of dough pieces. Now I just went straight to rolling with the rolling pin here, and that was a little bit of a mistake. What I should have was pick up each piece and roll it into a ball, and then proceed to roll it out flat. I wasn't exactly sure how flat I was going to roll them either, so I kind of did everything, and then when I started cooking I changed my mind and rolled stuff out again. But that's kind of part of the experience of making naan bread, and it's kind of one of those things too that you can, well, I've seen some recipes where people will roll it out and then they'll let it like proof again, so they'll wait like another like half hour or 45 minutes before actually making the stuff. So it's really up to you. It's quite flexible that way. But yeah, just kind of roll them out nice and flat into little pieces. Of course, this isn't flat enough, and I'll show you my technique down the road when I really get serious. It wasn't until I was cooking them that it all started to click and make sense. Okay, so now we'll get our pan on the stove, and we're going to crank our heat up to kind of a medium high. Actually turn it up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Maybe even a little bit more than that. And now we're just going to let our pan heat up, and then we're going to put our naan bread on the pan. Now, something you'll be able to see here, or not see, is that the naan bread's supposed to kind of bubble up, and that's kind of how you know when to flip it. But because this one here is a little bit on the thick side, that's not really going to happen, and I kind of rectified that in the rest of the bread. And one of the things too, one of the big advantages, the way that I just kind of left everything on the counter, is that they're not sticking to each other, and it's easy enough for me to move them around on the counter to roll them out a second time. The same is too that if I was to stack them, I'd have to put a lot of flour on them and then get flour all over the place when I'm trying to cook the thing. And there I just flipped it. So that's kind of the color we're looking for, is a nice golden brown. The big thing with this thing being as thick as it is, it's not going to give me that bubbling action that is normally so prevalent with the production of naan bread. So it's fine, it's edible, it tastes good. It tasted just fine, but it wasn't quite to the level of perfection that I liked. So on my second one, while this one was cooking, I rolled out the remainder of the dough to be quite a bit thinner. So now it takes up pretty much the entire pan, and I think this is more the targeted size that I should have went for. And the thing with it being so much thinner is that now when it heats up, it's actually going to start bubbling up. And when it starts to really bubble up, then you know it's time to flip it. So it gives you more visual cues for affecting the cooking process. Although after you flip it, you really don't know on the second side, so there's still that little bit of complication to that. And as you can see right now, it's bubbling up like crazy, so it's time to flip it. Now the thing that we notice after we flip it is that since the bubbles on it are so big, it's actually pulling the thing away from the pan. So I'm just going to press down on it with the turner lifter object to reduce the height of it and pop the bubbles so that it sits flat and cooks properly. And it just takes like 2 or so minutes to cook. It cooks really quick because it's such a thin piece of bread. So you put it down, you wait till it bubbles, you flip it, and you wait a couple minutes and it's done. And then you have a perfectly cooked naan bread of the proper thickness. Okay, now that we've done one, we can do them all. So just going to keep cooking and make the rest of them. And something you can do is, after you're done cooking them, you can sprinkle salt on the top of them, or melt butter and give them a little bit of a butter painting and then put salt on them, and that can kind of really draw out the flavor of the naan bread. But it really depends what you're having them with. I don't think you eat naan as a meal on its own, but you eat it with things. And we'll have to come up with some other recipes for stuff to have with it. If you have any suggestions for recipes, leave them in the comments below. And let me know how you make your naan bread. If you like my content and would like to see more of it, please like and subscribe. And until next time, stay awesome.